Welcome back to CIA Declassified. Today we peel back the curtain on the first time the United States government tried to chemically engineer honesty. The setting is a dimly lit safe house in 1943. World War II is at its peak, and the pressure to extract secrets from Axis spies is reaching a fever pitch. Traditional interrogation is slow. The agency's ancestors wanted something faster, a chemical skeleton key for the human mind. Long before the psychedelic experiments of the 1960s, a secretive group of scientists were working in the shadows. They weren't looking for a weapon of destruction, but a weapon of disclosure. In the labs of the Office of Strategic Services, or the OSS, that's the CIA's predecessor, the quest for a truth serum led them to a concentrated, potent oil derived from the cannabis plant. They called it the truth drug. The search for a way to loosen the tongue was led by some of the most brilliant and ethically flexible minds in the intelligence community. In 1942, General William Wild Bill Donovan authorized a top-secret research committee to find a drug that could eliminate the psychological defense of enemy agents during questioning. A quote from the declassified OSS report, Cigarette Experiments. The subject becomes loquacious, free in his conversation, and reveals an attitude of great friendliness toward the interrogator, end quote. The lead scientist on the project was Dr. Winifred Overholser, Overholser, who worked with a concentrated cannabis extract that was colorless and odorless, making it easy to slip into food or cigarettes. A quote from the 1943 test subject log. Under the influence of the drug, the barrier between the conscious and the subconscious mind appears to dissolve. The subject speaks without the usual filter or fear or caution, end quote. One of the most famous tests involved a Manhattan Project scientist who, after being given a THC-laced cigarette, allegedly began revealing classified atomic secrets to the undercover OSS agents. In 1943, the OSS tested the drug on August Delgaizo, Gaizo, a New York gangster, to see if he would reveal mafia ties to the Axis powers. He reportedly spoke for hours without stopping. The OSS developed a delivery system called the TD, which involved injecting THC into cigarettes or cigars to be offered during casual social interrogations. A quote from the declassified TD report. The drug's greatest asset is the subject's inability to remember exactly what they said or why they felt so compelled to say it. End quote. Official records show the OSS conducted these tests at a high-security facility in St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C., away from prying eyes. Documents reveal that the OSS considered using THC-impregnated blotter paper as early as 1944, decades before similar methods were used for other substances. A quote from an internal 1945 evaluation. Cannabis is the most promising of all substances tested, as it produces a state of vulnerable euphoria without the lethality of earlier barbiturates, end quote. The OSS team successfully created a THC acetate, ACETATE, that was estimated to be 300% more potent than standard plant material available at the time. The manifest confirmed that the agency's technical services branch continued to refine these 1940s botanical extracts well into the early 1950s. A quote from a 1947 CIA transition memo: "The wartime data on cannabis indicates a high probability of success in field extraction scenarios where subtlety is paramount." End quote. Intelligence logs from 1948 show that the agency attempted to use THC to flip Soviet defectors who were otherwise resistant to standard psychological pressure. By the time the project evolved into MK Ultra, the OSS cannabis research had already mapped out the dosage curves for over 200 unique human subjects. But the declassification has a massive gap. For instance, the section titled Urban Test Sites contains the highest concentration of redactions in the entire Truth Drug archive of the OSS. Over 3,000 pages of atmospheric dispersion data are completely blacked out. This is officially the most censored file regarding OSS-era chemical testing. Why is a World War II drug trial still too dangerous for the public to read? Get ready for the theory of the green screen. Speculation suggests the 1940s experiments weren't just about cigarettes, but led to a aerosolized THC weapon used on protesters in 2026 to induce mass confusion and passivity. The theory claims the redactions hide the dosage potency logs, proving that the government has perfected a way to cloud the mind of entire city blocks during civil unrest. What if they never stopped? A dark rumor suggests the government is still seeding the global supply to keep the population compliant. This theory argues the redactions in the agriculture interference section hide the fact that the CIA has been genetically modifying commercial cannabis to include subliminal binding agents that make users more susceptible to government messaging. Some imagine the 3,000 redacted pages have to do with mass aerosol logs, and that they hide the fact that the agency has been testing high-altitude mist over major music festivals to study the hive mind effect under chemical influence. Theorists looking at the blacked out files suggest that auditory hallucination files have been redacted that prove that the agency found a way to use THC to make subjects hear ghost voices that give them direct orders, effectively turning a high into a remote control state. Rumor says the genetic legacy redactions hide evidence that the 1940s test subjects' children were born with altered brain chemistry, and the agency is still tracking their DNA heritage to this day. Gossip suggests the black bars in the visual distortion section hide the fact that THC was used to make witnesses believe they saw a UFO craft to cover up secret military aircraft tests. In one of the more heavily redacted sections titled Underground Cultivation, some whisper that the government operates a subterranean forest where they grow a strain of cannabis so powerful it can shatter the soul of anyone who smells it. A fringe theory suggests the redactions hide that the truth drug is now being synthesized into a digital signal that can mimic the effects of a THC high through your smart screen. Dark whispers suggest the redacted pages detail a THC pheromone that can be sprayed on clothing, causing anyone who comes near the wearer to become instantly honest and compliant. Some people on the dark web gossip that the redacted sections describing using THC to induce artificial time dilation are the reason for the redactions, making a 10-minute interrogation feel like a 10-year interrogation. Speculation persists that the cognitive erasure section is redacted because it describes how high doses of THC were used to wipe the hard drive of a human mind, leaving it a blank state for the agency. Lastly, some believe the redactions hide the post-hypnotic joint, a chemical trigger that, when smoked years later, reactivates the sleeper commands planted during the original OSS sessions. Was the THC truth drug a success? Tactically, it was a partial success. The OSS proved that THC could reliably lower inhibitions and make subjects more talkative. It was a soft interrogation tool that avoided the physical trauma of traditional torture. Strategically, it was a hazy failure. The unpredictable nature of a high meant that some subjects became paranoid or simply forgot the information the agency wanted. However, it successfully moved intelligence gathering into the pharmacological era, setting the stage for every chemical mind control project that followed. That includes the 100 and something projects of MK Ultra. As far as technological and operational breakthroughs go, the high stakes of truth paved the way for modern psychotropic warfare. For instance, pharmacological interrogation, the birth of using mind-altering substances as a formal tool for intelligence gathering. Controlled extraction, breakthroughs in high-purity botanical refining that led to modern pharmaceutical standards. Covert administration, the development of delivery vehicles, like the laced cigarette, for non-consensual drug administration, and psychological observation, the first systemic behavioral mapping of individuals under the influence of potent narcotics. The truth drug THC reminds us that the state has always been interested in what's happening inside your head. As the files reveal, the line between a recreational high and a weaponized truth is thinner than a puff of smoke. Thanks for listening, and join us next time as we examine In-Q-Tel Keyhole. In the early 2000s, the CIA venture capital arm In-Q-Tel funded a small software company called Keyhole. This technology allowed for the first 3D Earth visualization, a tool designed for battlefield intelligence. We'll uncover how this eye in the sky was sold to a tech giant and became Google Earth. We'll examine the surveillance gap manifest and the moment the world realized that when you look at the map is also looking at you. Join us next time for The Glass Planet. In the meantime, I'll see you in the archives.